And welcome everyone to this week's episode of Craze's Corner. We're going to have a bold prediction show going today, so you definitely want to make sure you stay tuned. We've definitely got some bold predictions for you. Some that are, maybe a little more likely to happen than others. And plus, we're going to have a great Russell Wilson debate coming up, so you're going to want to make sure you stay tuned for that if you have any of the Broncos stock or Russell Wilson stock in particular. But first, we got a couple of news stories we want to dig into. Tua is now back at practice for the Miami Dolphins. He's not going to be playing this upcoming week, but they're hopeful he can return soon. This is great news for his progression coming back from the concussion. He's been cleared to practice, but head coach Mike McDaniel has already ruled him out. So it's definitely not going to be this week. They're hoping for maybe next week, but they definitely want to ease him back and make sure he's 100% before he gets back on the field. Second news story for today is that Damian Harris is going to miss a few weeks with a hamstring injury. This is big for fantasy owners, especially if you have Ramondre Stevenson. You can feel much more comfortable sending him out into your starting lineup. He should get bulk of the work while Damian Harris is out. So we could have a few big weeks here, win you a few games. And the final news story, and perhaps the best one of all, Matt Rule has been fired. And Baker Mayfield is currently dealing with an ankle sprain, so he's possibly missed a few weeks as well. Put two and two together, and the Panthers now have no Matt Rule and no Baker Mayfield, but somehow still have Ben McAdoo as their offensive coordinator. So maybe with a little more work and Sam Darnold gets back healthy, the Panthers might be able to win a game or two down the stretch and screw themselves out of the first overall pick. But who do you think is going to get the number one overall pick? Do you think the Panthers are going to do it? Currently, they're around 28% chance that they get the first overall pick. Do you guys agree with that? I think it's going to be another team. Let us know using the Media app. The Media app is a virtual press conferencing app that allows you to host a virtual press conference from your phone. You can record it anywhere. It has a great virtual background. You can add logos to the background, replace it with images, whatever you want to. You can post it to any social media platform directly from the app, or you can save it to your camera roll and export it that way. There's endless possibilities with this app. You can use it in your fantasy football leagues. I guarantee you're going to love it. You should make sure you go check that out on Google Play and the App Store. And now let's welcome in our guests. We have Jeff and Will from Media. Welcome in.
Hey, we're back.
We are back. You guys think the Panthers are going to be able to get this together and get the number one overall pick this year? Or you think someone else is just going to swoop in and take it from them?
It's weird, man, because, right now, as far as teams still have a chance. It's like everybody, even if you've won one game, you've still got a chance to actually do something. So I don't really see anybody tanking right now. I think everybody still thinks they have an opportunity to possibly squeak into the playoffs. The only team that I'm looking at with their schedule and where they are right now is maybe the Steelers, and they just drafted a quarterback. So I know you guys need a quarterback, but I don't even see them not losing, or losing the rest of the games. I think everybody still has something to play for right now. So it might become a little bit clearer, say 2 to 3 games from now.
Will, what do you think? Who do you think is going to end up with the number one overall pick?
I think whoever gets it, they may not stay there. I think there's too many good quarterbacks coming out that I think we'll be shocked the amount of trades that happen in this draft coming up. And I don't even put the Steelers. If I was the Steelers and if I'm the number 3 pick, there's a quarterback I really like. I don't care. I drafted a quarterback last year. I'm moving up to get the guy I want. This draft class, look, honestly, this draft class might be 10, 15 quarterbacks deep to me, because there's guys that aren't even getting talked about that are putting up big numbers. I'm going to give a shout out to DTR UCLA. He's not even getting talked about.
He's not.
If you watch him play, he's getting to his third progression. And yeah, it's a Chip Kelly offense, but shoot, the NFL is more like Chip Kelly's offense now than it used to be. I'm just telling you, there are quarterbacks that'll be in this draft. Woo, you may be able to get a quarterback second, third round that becomes your franchise quarterback, which is going to be an interesting draft.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that the Panthers probably have the best chance. They got a tough schedule upcoming. Currently PJ Walker we're rolling out as our starting quarterback. Sam Darnold will probably take over in a week or two. And then it'll probably end up being a combination of Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield down the stretch, switching in and out depending on who the coach decides to start that week. So I think it is kind of all hopefully looking up if the Panthers can get a high draft pick and take their quarterback in the future. I think that's definitely the hope and what all Panthers fans want this year.
But one thing, aren't we all hoping that PJ catches fire? Because just the marketing deals with the peanut butter and jelly, come on, dude. There's so many marketing layers with PJ. Oh God, come on, PJ, put up some points.
Yeah,
man.
I can
reach out to him.
Right.
Get him on media.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can tell you that all the football leagues that aren't the NFL would be super happy to see a former XFL star ball out in the NFL too. So definitely a lot of people cheering for PJ, and he's going to get his chance this week. We just got to see if he can take that opportunity and run with it. Currently, he's been decent when he's been starting. I'm fairly certain he's undefeated as a starter. I don't think that continues on this week, but it could, I guess. We've seen weird things happen. That's what I was going to say. Cooper Rush has never lost a game either. So there's definitely something that could go his way here. But like I said, we're going to get into some bold predictions here. We're going to start the show off with a few bold predictions. We're going to get into a heated argument coming up very soon. Russell Wilson hater versus Russell Wilson lover. I'm going to get through both sides of the story, and maybe I'll come in and be the middleman here and maybe find exactly where in this he actually ranks. But we're going to start with one of my bold predictions. Bold prediction I've been on, that I'm going to continue to stay on. Trevor Lawrence was in the top 12 of quarterbacks after the first few games, but he slowly started to fall out. And I'm here to tell you he's going to get back into the top 12, possibly even the top 10. Super high on Trevor Lawrence still. He has had a couple of bad games against Philly. No one really expected him to go into Philly and do too much. Their defense has been great so far this year. And he had a bad game against Houston as well, who have been doing pretty good against the quarterback. We saw Russell Wilson struggle a little bit. Pairing so far, some people still think Russell Wilson can turn it around, and I think Trevor Lawrence is going to turn it around. He's been pretty good throwing the ball. Last week, he had 2 interceptions against Houston, which was killer, especially for his fantasy season, but he attempted 47 passes. And the thing that surprised me really is that Christian Kirk didn't really get involved too much.
Killing me.
It's something I need to see going forward. Out of those 47 attempts, only 3 of them went to Christian Kirk. And I think that's a number that they realized things were working when Christian Kirk was getting the ball, when he was getting involved. So I think they're going to kind of go back to that, try and get him the ball more. Zay Jones has looked really good so far. Same with Evan Ingram. And they're just kind of trying to figure out their running back position as well currently. So if they can just get a solid stance on that with the Travis Etienne and James Robinson backfield duo, I think that Trevor Lawrence can he's just got to be okay in this offense. He just gets the ball out and he should be good to go, be back into that top 12 to make my March prediction come true of Trevor Lawrence being a top 12 fantasy quarterback. Are you guys nervous after these past 2 games, or you think he's got what it takes that he can bounce it back and finish inside the top 12? Jeff, we'll start with you.
I think he can. I look at all of the receivers that he has, even Marvin Jones, Jamal Agnew. Mm-hmm. He's got a lot of guys that fill in when guys are actually hurt. So I think, he's got enough good receivers to continue to keep him valuable in fantasy leagues. And now, ETN is actually starting to emerge a little bit as well. So I think they might even go away from the run with Robinson a little bit more and start concentrating on the short passes to ETN, which gives him more value as well. And then, too, I don't think his matchups are going to be that tough coming up. I don't really know what happened against Houston, I think he's going to have a lot of easier matchups where he will be able to get back to scoring or at least throwing 2 touchdowns in the game, which gives him.
Yeah, I think so. Like we're talking about some easy stretches. He has Las Vegas, Kansas City, Baltimore, Detroit, and Tennessee between 6 games, and those 5 teams have been absolutely atrocious against the passing game. Doesn't matter who's throwing it on them. Geno Smith going crazy. We've seen a lot happen. So I think that Trevor Lawrence has this in the bag. Will, any thoughts on Trevor Lawrence before we move on?
Well, let's at least give a shout out to Lovey Smith. I mean, I know we say like what happened, but it is. I mean, Lovey Smith's still a damn good coach, especially in the NFL. And so, let's just chalk it up to an experienced coach knowing how to attack still a young quarterback. But yeah, I'm with you.
Just Trevor Lawrence though, that he shut down Russ week 2 as well. Like the Houston Texans defense has been good against the pass.
Yeah.
Despite their team only having 1 win, they have been good against the pass.
And that might be the thing that Jacksonville, if they're self-scouting, is maybe you're going a little too heavy with the pass right now. You know what I'm saying? Like 47, like get a little bit more balance in there. At least early in the game. Run game.
Yeah, I think they need
pass game.
Work James Robinson in the running game more. It makes it easier to throw the ball if you can run the ball first.
Yeah.
Not everyone's Tom Brady. Everyone else needs a running game to be able to support the passing game, play actions.
Yeah.
We see so many quarterbacks who can really only benefit from play actions. Ryan Tannehill literally made his money in Tennessee off the play actions. So if they can just build James Robinson in this running game and let Travis Etienne come in every once in a while and catch some passes, like Jeff said, in the short passing game, if they can put these 2 things together, this team could be a playoff team. And
especially the last seed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Even their division.
You're right. They could win their division. Yeah. Wouldn't shock me.
Yeah, so I think that you put a couple good things together that they have going on this offense, and if they can just do them a little more consistently, I think Trevor Lawrence should come back. We all know he's really talented.
Yeah.
This offense just has to figure out what they're going to be. Are they going to be a James Robinson offense, or are they going to be a Travis Etienne offense? So they can do a little bit of both. We saw the first 3 weeks when Trevor Lawrence was doing really well. They were a James Robinson offense. The past 2 weeks, they've been kind of going more towards Travis Etienne, and it hasn't been working so well for Trevor Lawrence, and they've lost a couple games. So maybe that's their sign. Bring Robinson in, let him run the ball so that you can open up the pass game a little bit more. Personally, that's what I'm hoping for. I have James Robinson in a couple leagues, so I need to get him the ball a little more. Been kind of disappointed the past couple weeks. So hoping he turns that around. But let's move on. Jeff, let's hear your first take.
Save it, Jeff. Save it.
Let's see here. Should I save that one? Or should I just...
Maybe save it for a bit. Maybe next time around.
All right. Just like I predicted, the new Beast Mode Jr., Dameon Pierce, top 5 running back, baby. This dude is a monster. And he is starting to run harder than I saw him run at the beginning of the season. I don't think he's just a spot filler for Houston right now. I think he is going to take over that running back position, kind of reminding me for you old school fantasy heads of an old school Arian Foster, where he just came out of nowhere and kind of held down that Houston backfield for a couple of seasons. However, this guy, I think this guy can actually, shore up this backfield here for the next 3 years with him being so young, his running style, and I think it's something that Houston can go ahead and build on. So that's it. Top 5, baby. Dameon Pierce.
I could see it. One thing that does worry me is as his carries or attempts go up in each game, his efficiency has dropped in yards per carry. So you take his last 4 games, because really week 1 he wasn't on the field. His 14 attempt game, 9.3 yards per attempt. 15, he went down to 4.6, 24, and 26 last week, where he was very involved. He was down to 3.8 yards per carry. So I'd like to see them get him the ball a lot, but he's got to make sure that he can capitalize still. I don't want to see him running for 2 yards every play. He's been lucky these past couple weeks, easy matchups against the Chargers, Jacksonville, and Chicago. So they have been able to score a touchdown in each of those games. Because realistically, if you take out the touchdown, 8 points, 9 points, not really going to do too much for you. Do I want to bank on the Houston Texans to always get Dameon Pierce a touchdown? Not really. But I can see the argument that he's looked good on the field. And, he's been breaking tackles and stuff. I'm just worried that they're not going to be able to score as much when they go up against some tougher teams down the stretch, as well as the fact that I really don't want to own any Texans. So it's tough. I could see him top 10. I think top 5 is pushing it for me. But I could do top 10 as a real possibility for where he finishes on the season. Will, what do you think about Dameon Pierce?
I think he's top 10 for sure by the end of the season. Could be number 5. More importantly, he's a top 10 redraft pick next year.
Disagree.
That's somebody sitting at the bottom of round 1 that you're like, not going to be back there when he gets back to me.
True.
People will overdraft him next year.
He doesn't have the draft capital, in my opinion, to stop the Texans from going out and getting someone else. We've talked about this before on the show. Whether or not they go out and bring in a free agent or they go out and draft someone, I don't trust this team to not do that. I think they will go out and bring someone else in. So I don't think Dameon Pierce.
They have Davis Mills is not the answer at quarterback, for one. So I believe that they are going to go ahead and draft a quarterback. They've also need to go ahead and get a few more. The tight end situation is not great. They still can go ahead and get some receivers with Brandon Cooks getting a little bit longer in the tooth. They can shore up the defense just a little bit more as well. I think they got a little bit more that they need to go ahead and look at. They can look at the running back position, the line. They can still do some more on the line. So I think they can build around Dameon Pierce rather than bringing in somebody that's going to compete against him.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen teams try to build around running backs, and realistically, it doesn't work anymore. So that's something to keep in mind as well. To me, Dameon Pierce is a perfect sell high in dynasty leagues. If you own him in any of your dynasty leagues, get him off your team, sell him while he's a young running back one, and you can get that value for him. Because if the Texans
have him in our league?
No. Oh. If the Texans do get rid of him, or not to get rid of him, but if they bring someone else in, his value's gone. And the Texans are the type of organization to bring in another running back. You guys can't tell me the Texans aren't the team that's going to screw this up. They will. They have Patriots scattered throughout their head office. They love this whole, okay, let's just bring in a couple more maybe veteran running backs and get them the ball. We'll draft a guy. I don't trust it. I'm definitely ready to sell high on Dameon Pierce in Dynasty, but for currently this year, I can think he could be a top 10 running back. Anything you want to add before we move on?
We're going to see.
Yeah,
we're going to see.
It'll be rough for the Texans in this next coming years, but maybe Pierce is the guy they decide to build around. I just don't see them doing that with such a low draft capital. Will, what's your first bold prediction?
Odell. I said that, and then the next thing I know, there's stories all over him talking about Rams haven't made me an offer. Odell's heating up, baby. We're two weeks probably away from him being signed, maybe sooner. Sounds like he's trying to push teams to make a decision. So I bring up Odell because this is the guy. If he's out there, you got to grab him. I don't know if he's mostly free agent still, but if he's, you got to go grab him because this could be the guy that takes you from borderline over. Because I think wherever he goes, he's going to put up numbers at the end of the season that people are going to be like, I should just have him on my roster. Because really, honestly, who's at the bottom of your roster? Who do you have at the bottom of your roster that could give the more potential than Odell can? Because he's going to go to a team that's going to be in contention, and he's going to put up numbers.
Yeah, I currently have him in the Fantasy Football Network Launch League, and he's just sitting on my bench. I'm just waiting for him to sign somewhere because it's a 14-team league. So I definitely need the help wherever I can get it. And if he goes to a team that currently either needs a wide receiver 2, or possibly even if he goes to the Packers where they need a wide receiver 1, the sky really is the limit. No, Jeff, be quiet. The sky really is the limit for Odell, depending on where he signs. He's been linked to teams like the Bills. You put him with Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs, I think he can put up some numbers.
That's not fair.
That's
not fair, honestly.
You put him on the Rams. You put him and Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford back together. I don't think it's the best spot for him fantasy-wise, but I don't think it's a bad spot. We saw him produce last year. But yeah, there's a bunch of teams. He's even been linked to go back to the Giants, which I don't love for his fantasy value. I mean, I would love that for Odell, and I would love that for Giants fans, just so that he could be back in New York where it all started. I think it would be nostalgic. I don't really think fantasy-wise it would be great. They need a wide receiver 1.
That's what I was going to say.
Sure.
It might be the best place for him if Daniel Jones has time to actually get him the ball. Because I do not understand, for the life of me, I have never seen a team like this to where their top wide receivers have yet to play. Not wide receiver. Wide receivers have yet to play a down in the regular season. It's crazy. It's Saquon, and that's it. And the rookie Daniel Bellinger, maybe. Other than that, it's like I don't even know how they're winning games right now. No idea.
Yeah, it's been their defense has really been keeping them in games, and the offensive line has been pretty good so far. It's just been Daniel Jones running the ball and Saquon.
That's it.
We just saw them beat the Packers last week, and they really showed out. I just don't know if I really want Daniel Jones number 1 wide receiver. I feel like there's other places he can go that can give him a little more value.
I think there's 2 teams where Odell goes, you'd be like, oh my God. Outside the Bills, because the Bills, I think, would be like, that's not fair. I think the Cowboys and the Chargers have the cap space. Jerry Jones is every time they win one more game with Cooper Rush, Jerry Jones, you can see him getting his chips and get ready to push him to the middle of the table. And I think Jerry Jones is crazy to do it just because to keep him from going to another team. Imagine you put him on the Eagles right now.
Mm-hmm. I would hate that for Odell because Jalen Hurts can't throw touchdowns.
Teams with cap space that think they have a shot at number 1 seed or number 2 seed, they're going to bid up the price on Odell. Because just Buffalo talking about it, everybody has to think. If he goes to Buffalo, he can slow his way. He can play week 16.
Yeah, they don't even need him for the regular season. They just need him for the playoffs. Just let him and Josh Allen go run around and play catch on the side. And
I honestly don't know what the Rams are doing. I really don't. The whole Allen Robinson experiment is not working. It's not going to work. Call this guy that already knows your playbook, that proved that he made a difference to your team last year, and get him in there and stop trying to make Ben Skowronek or whatever the hell his name is work as your wide receiver 2 right now, because that's basically what he is, because Allen Robinson is nowhere to be found.
Yeah, I think I don't know what the Rams are doing. I think they really do want to get Allen Robinson in this role, and they just paid him to fill this role, so I think they're kind of hesitant to move on from him already after only 5 games, which is why I am hesitant to move on from Allen Robinson after only 5 games because the team wants to get him the ball. So, we'll see. I really don't want him to go to LA, though, because that kills not only Allen Robinson's any potential that he can have anything, but I think it caps Odell's upside. Again, being on a team where Jefferson's going to come back, you have Allen Robinson there who's been getting a lot of the red zone targets. Cooper Kupp's still there. Tyler Higbee's been a target hog all season. So I just think that Matthew Stafford also hasn't been great. So I think it caps his upside. I'd like to see him in Green Bay. That's where I want Odell to go. That's where I want to see him and Aaron Rodgers go at it. I don't care anything about the whole logistics of it. I just need to see Odell be the wide receiver 1 for this team and let him go off.
Good decoy for somebody else to get balls.
Oh, here we go.
I'm gonna save that till later.
Yeah. That one's also coming later, but we're gonna move on to one of my bold predictions now. A guy who Jeff loves, a guy who I talked about on last week's show as a buy low candidate before he went off. And what did he do last week? Breece Hall went off. Breece Hall is going to be a top 5 running back come the end of the season. And, he's going to finish higher than Dameon Pierce, if we're going to just throw that out there since he was on the show earlier. We've seen his snap percentage. I talked about it last week. It gone up week in, week out. Still went up again last week. Same with the attempts. Last week he had a couple long receptions as well. 2 touchdowns. We talked about him. He was going to have a 150-yard game and a touchdown. He had almost a 200-yard game and 2 touchdowns, put up lots of points. He's going to be the focal point of this offense. Zach Wilson obviously likes him. We've seen that the past 2 weeks with him in the game. It's not like Breece Hall's production has dropped like a lot of people thought it might. So that's what I like to see. And just moving forward, he's got a couple tough matchups again. But look at the end of the season, Chicago, Minnesota. Then they play Buffalo, which isn't a great matchup. Then he goes against Detroit, Jacksonville, and Seattle. 3 of the worst defenses in the league. 4-year playoffs. This guy could easily have 30-point games in 2 out of 3 of those games. And that's going to be the difference between the RB5 and a guy who finishes in the top 10. Breece Hall just showed us that he can put up 30-point games. So I think that this is a guy that they drafted to be their RB1, a guy that they believe in, and a guy that we've now seen produce at a high level multiple weeks back to back. Let's just get on the ball some more, but I think Breece Hall easily can finish it in the top 5, and he's going to win some people their fantasy football championships because they watched last week's episode and they bought him before his breakout week. Jeff, you're also in on Breece Hall. You think he can finish top 5?
You know what? I think he can. I think he can. Maybe it's the shoes, courtesy of media. But anyway, although he didn't wear them last week, darn it. But anyway, I think he can. I still think the only thing that will keep that from happening, but no, I take that back too. I was looking at possibly the Jets in some bigger games in the division. They'll be playing from behind. That game last week with them playing against Skylar Thompson, that changed the dynamics. I think the Dolphins were just like ready to give up. So the only thing that I do like about him is that they are using him in the receiving game, and he did have those 2 long receptions. I just don't trust the Jets. People are already starting to say that, they're looking like they're going to be a playoff team. I'm like, these guys have barely won some games, and they've beaten teams when they, kind of just started trying out a rookie or something like that. But I think as they progress, I think the real Jets are going to show up. And again, when it starts getting crunch time, I think people might start putting 8 in the box. I know they've got some decent receivers, but I think they're going to go back to really testing Zach Wilson. So that's the only thing that might stop him. So
Jeff doesn't trust the Jets because they're the Jets, but Jeff fully willing to ride the Houston Texans and Dameon Pierce. I don't know. I have a
trust-
little more faith in the Jets than I
trust
do
Lovey
in the.
more than Robert Sala. I trust Lovey as far as him running the ball. That's the thing.
But Saleh is also a defensive head coach, so he also likes to run the ball. And I think Brees brings that receiving upside. I don't think Pierce does. So that's what sets him apart, especially in PPR leagues. For me, the fact that I think their offense is better, they're going to score more touchdowns, and he catches the ball. Will, what do you think? You're in on Brees Hall finishing top 5?
Keep wearing those shoes, Brees. Keep wearing those shoes. I know you didn't wear them last week. Put them back on. Let's go. Thou shalt not talk any evil.
We're gonna have to get him some black ones with a design on it or something.
Look, and the Jets need to just needs to go with what's hot.
Mm-hmm. And Brees is that.
It's hot. Yep.
Exactly. All right, Jeff and Will. I think the time has come. We'll start with Jeff, and then we're gonna Will, and then we're gonna Will, and then I'll hop in somewhere in the middle. Let you know my thoughts on it. But Jeff, what is your second bold prediction?
Listen to me. We have seen the past couple of years where Russell Wilson has started off hot. 4 touchdowns, 5 touchdowns, first half of the season, only to regress and start going to 1, maybe 2 touchdowns a game. That's what he's doing this season. I think by mid-season, which is probably about game and a half from now, Russ is going to turn it around and Russ is going to start cooking. I think Nathaniel Hackett's going to be like, let's put you in a situation where you can succeed. Let's allow you to move out of the pocket and throw the ball. My man just had platelets put into his shoulder. He is going to start cooking and going to start getting 2+ touchdowns a game. He is not going to be the horrible Russ. He is going to start being dangerous. He's going to turn it around and start cooking and being better than the Russell that we've seen even back when he was in Seattle. That's it. Russell Wilson, go out and get him now. Make trades. Pick him up. Buy low. He's going to pay dividends. Russ will not go out like this. That's all I got to say. What say you?
All right, we've heard from Jeff. Will, let's hear your thoughts on Jeff's take, and I want to hear your take.
Look, I own Russ in a couple leagues, and I'm so disappointed. But sometimes you got to know when to hold them, know when to fold. And if Dandy Don was here, we'd be singing, turn out the lights, the party's over. Because let's ride to where, Russ? Where are we going? You ain't cooking. You ain't writing. The players are giving you dirty looks on the sidelines. What the heck happened? Even if he salvages this, what happened? What? So the bold prediction is Geno Smith is much higher at the end of the year in the rankings of quarterback than Russell Wilson. And the one thing, Jeff, you didn't say about Russell, you did say his name. I don't think you really hit on it. The head coach, Hackett, is a horrible disaster. Horrible. Russ wants Pete Carroll so bad right now. Please send me back to Seattle. Please.
That's what he's starting to realize. It may not be, the grass may not be greener all the time on the other side. However, I think Nathaniel Hackett is going to go ahead and say, let's do what works for you, Russ.
Hackett will be fired.
Say, hey, Hamler, you have done nothing to act like you are Jerry Rice in that moment, giving Russ those looks. You haven't done anything, young man. Don't ever look at Russ like that. Now, if it was Cortland Sutton, maybe. Jerry Jeudy, maybe. KJ Hamler, you're barely a wide receiver 3. Don't ever look at Russ like that. Anyway, Russ is going. This was a wake up call. This last game is a wake up call. And if I know anything about Russ, he is going to work. He is going to do whatever it takes to prove his worth to the Denver Broncos in that city. All I ask is, Russ, listen to me. Just stop saying let's ride. Please stop saying let's ride. Just start saying I'm ready to cook. That's it. Just start saying I'm ready to cook.
Oh, that's what it is. That's what it is. It's the whole catchphrase thing.
It's the catchphrase.
He needs to go back. I'm cooking.
Let's ride never was that. It was horrible even at the beginning. Somebody should have said let's go ahead and do something else, man. Somebody should have said just be quiet till you go out there and play. How about that? Just go out there and play and prove everybody that you are still one of the top quarterbacks. Prove to Richard Sherman. Prove to everybody else that has doubted you. Prove to everybody else that's still salty because you threw the interception in the Super Bowl. Prove to them that you are still an elite quarterback in this league. That's it.
I just want to say
he's going to do it.
Let's get KJ Hamler involved more. I want to see him with the ball because I think when he gets the ball, he's going to be a good wide receiver. They just really haven't given him that opportunity yet. He had that opportunity. He was wide open, and Russ just decided, no, I don't want to throw to you. You're not my guy. So
there you go.
Not sure about that. I think Russ has some favorable matchups coming up, but I am a little worried. The shoulder injury kind of concerning, especially after a slow start to the season. I don't know if they're just kind of using this as an excuse to maybe to be an out as to why he's been so bad, or if it is actually the issue, and hopefully this helps it. I saw a stat the other day. The Broncos were, I think, second in explosive pass plays, meaning pass plays over, I think it was 15 yards in this stat. But they had absolutely no explosive running plays. So that's something to keep in mind as well, is that this team is supposed to be able to run the ball, and they haven't been able to. Losing Javonte Williams doesn't help that. Latavius Murray's not going to be a guy that's going to be breaking off 30-yard runs. And they really need to be able to establish their run game if we want to see Russ take off, because that's what we saw in Seattle. Seattle always had a running game. Currently, Russ doesn't have a running game, and without this running game, he seems to be suffering. So maybe instead of letting Russ cook, we need to build a running game first. And then once that's all set up for him, then maybe he might be a little more efficient throwing the ball.
That's what I'm saying. I am looking at this as Nathaniel Hackett has broken Russ, as he broke Javonte Williams, which was one of the guys I had paid heavy for this season. You have a great back in Javonte Williams. You have a good back in Melvin Gordon, and none of them could get anything going. So it's like, what's going on with this offense? You got this guy that's supposed to be this offensive guru. You got this guy that you've seen this same type of system work in Green Bay, and it comes here, and it just doesn't do anything. Is it the head coach?
That was never Hackett's system.
Yeah, exactly.
That wasn't his system. That's the problem.
And that's what I'm saying. But everybody attributed to him when it was actually LaFleur's system. So that's the thing. You put up the same thing that looks like it should work in that same LaFleur system, but Nathaniel Hackett is not hacking it. Or I should say he is hacking it. He's hacking it up. He's killing it. It's horrible.
I can get on board saying Nathaniel Hackett is the problem here. He's mismanaged almost every game they've been in. He is personally responsible for about 3 of their losses so far this season, and I think he is the problem. I don't think Russ is helping the problem. I don't think that the running game is helping the problem.
Wasn't Hackett hired this year?
Yeah.
They could have had the enemy. That would have been a much better head coach.
There's a problem with Bieniemy. I don't know what it is, but
we know what it is. Because the fact that Nathaniel Hackett, from being the offensive coordinator with an offensive head coach with a Hall of Fame quarterback, somehow gets a job. Like, look, this is on the front office that they got a coach that is such a failure at the basic things of coaching. I mean, honestly,
He had to
we're
bring in a coach to coach him.
Right. So
Exactly.
I'm just saying, Bieniemy played his college ball at Colorado. Would have been a much better hire.
It probably would have been. It couldn't really have been any worse than what they have so far. All the other head coaches seem to fit in a little better. Maybe the Broncos will be looking for a head coach at this time or next offseason. We saw the Texans do one and done with their head coach last year. Maybe the Broncos as a team do it this year if they don't get things turned around. Hackett will definitely be on the hot seat if he's not out. This new ownership, they didn't hire Hackett.
Right.
So
they don't care. They got money. They don't care. They'll terminate that contract. Him
they
and
definitely
Matt Rule
could.
can go hang out together.
Well, Matt Rule will be coaching college somewhere. I don't know if Hackett will get a college job.
True. Go out and get Sean Payton. That would be a perfect hire right there.
But it's going to cost them picks, and I don't know if they want to give up picks for Sean Payton. I don't know what the exact offer is that's going to peel Sean Payton away from the Saints, but I'm sure it's going to be a lot. I just can't quite pin down exactly how much it's going to be. I think a first plus, I think is what it's going to be. I've seen some people toss around 2 first more, and maybe I saw someone toss around the idea of 3 first-round picks for Sean Payton. And I was like, well, that's how you ruin a franchise.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though, because if you look at it, Denver is actually better equipped than most teams. They got a great defense. The offensive guys, they've spent a number of first-round picks on a lot of the guys that they have, and everybody's in place. You've got.
But they don't have first-round picks to trade for Sean Payton.
But that is true. So
theirs belong to Seattle.
Peyton's going to Green Bay.
What? There's no way. The floor is set there, man.
Oh, no, he's not.
No, he's not. Want to go to Green Bay.
LaFleur, if you've listened to any post-game radio with the Packers this year, LaFleur is not set. Because it's obvious it's Aaron Rodgers. It's obvious the front office is crazy. And the coaching staff is in over their head. They lost to the Giants.
They're 4-1, though. 4 teams have lost to the Giants.
Yeah, okay, but
one of those teams' coaches has already been fired.
Look, the Giants shouldn't have won that game. LaFleur, you can see LaFleur's body language. Just watching him on the sideline, that is not a coach that is feeling good about their position.
Yeah.
And if you don't think Aaron Rodgers is in that office with that general manager saying, you got rid of Devontae Adams, I don't have nothing. There's nothing around me. Absolutely nothing.
I don't think Sean Payton wants that. I don't think he wants to go have 2 years of Aaron Rodgers and then having to restart somewhere. I think he's going to want to go to a team that he believes can contend, not only for the next couple of years, but for the future. I think the next place he coaches for, he wants to be able to retire there. And I don't think Green Bay is going to be that for him. I'm not sure that's really the fit.
Okay, let's have about this real quick. He goes to the Raiders. Raiders trade for Aaron Rodgers. You put Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams back together, and there you go.
It could happen. Josh McDaniels could definitely be out of his job this year.
He's
don't go right. I think they'll give him a year or two, at least 2 years. I think they'll give him. I don't think they're going to be quite so, okay, Dad, you're done. They can't really afford to after the whole John Gruden thing. They got to kind of let it ride out for a little bit. Make sure they're not really still in the news for that anymore before they start making more headways. But, the Panthers, I've heard, are interested in Sean Payton, but that's never going to happen because the Saints aren't going to trade him in division. Unless the Panthers hire someone and then fire them and then eventually sign Sean Payton when his rights aren't owned by the Saints. But that's way in the future, not now. So I think we're going to see a couple surprise fires, and Sean Payton's going to want to go to a team that has a younger quarterback that maybe he likes, or maybe not a younger quarterback, but a good quarterback. I can't see him wanting to go to Green Bay. That's just too big of a mess in Green Bay, and I can't see him wanting to coach Aaron Rodgers. I think that's just too big of a personality. I don't really think any established head coach is going to want to go and take that on after we've seen what happens with his past 2 head coaches. It just ends up the blame gets passed on to them and not Aaron Rodgers. And why would Sean Payton come back for that?
Titletown, baby. Titletown.
And then he'd have to like be in the cold all the time. You know, he's been in Louisiana for so long. Not sure Green Bay is gonna fit his ecosystem there either. Maybe he'll stay somewhere a little warmer. But we will see. We've been over your second pick now, Will. So we'll move on to my third and final bold prediction. DeAndre Hopkins is coming back from his suspension very soon, but I don't think he walks into being the wide receiver 1 for the Arizona Cardinals. I think he'll probably have the most targets out of any of the wide receivers in Arizona, but I think Marquise Brown will score more fantasy points throughout the games that DeAndre Hopkins is there for rest of season. I think he's proven himself to be fully capable of being a wide receiver 1 in this offense. He has the connection with Kyler Murray, which we knew he would have, but we've seen it in fruition. I love what I've seen from him so far. He's been fairly efficient with the ball as well, coming off of 3 17.5 or more point games. He's had 10 targets in each of the last 4 games, scored 3 touchdowns through 5 games. So I think what we've seen so far has been great. You bring in another weapon opposite him to take some of the pressure off. I think that helps a little bit. Defenses are still going to treat DeAndre as the wide receiver 1, but that doesn't mean he's going to score more points. He's older. Marquise Brown is much more explosive. He's going to be able to break the big plays. And when it's scramble drills for Kyler Murray, Marquise is going to be able to not only outrun his defender, but they've got that connection. So Marquise knows exactly where Kyler is going to want him to be. And I just think Marquise Brown's a very talented wide receiver. And I think that these first 6 weeks have definitely helped him out more. So I just think he's going to outscore Hopkins when he comes back. A lot of people are expecting Hopkins to come back in and be this dominant, number 1 wide receiver. He's going to be, top 5 in points. And I don't see that happening now with Marquise Brown being there. I think it's going to surprise a lot of people. But Marquise Brown, I think, has a hold on being the big play guy and the guy that's going to put up more points. I think he'll probably score more touchdowns. What do you think about that take, Jeff?
I agree with it. The only thing I think that DeAndre Hopkins is going to do is probably pull some of the coverage that's going over to Hollywood Brown now.
Mm-hmm.
He got hurt when he was using PEDs. Now, how do you think he's going to be not on PEDs? And he always gets hurt. So that's what I'm looking at, man. I'm just like, I see a lot of people are really thinking that he is going to come in and produce. But the one thing that we've been starting to see, these older receivers are starting to break down now. Older receivers are not as quick as they were. They're not as fast as they were. And some of these hits just break these guys down. So I'm actually looking at maybe he's around for about 4 games before he starts to have a hamstring injury, before he starts to have
he'll have a hamstring injury first game back.
Exactly, man. And it's just, I can see it happening with him because it's always happened. So, I mean, I'm just looking even at AJ Green right now. Haven't heard anything about him, man. He has just disappeared. So I'm like, this is a prime example, and I think that's going to happen with DeAndre Hopkins as well.
Yeah, I think some of these older receivers, outside of the whole mental thing of this, they need to go start looking at whatever the heck Antonio Brown's been doing in his free time, because no matter how long he's been away from football, he comes back, he's old, and he looks fantastic. Yeah. So whatever he's doing outside of all the crazy stuff he's got going on in his little world right now, it's working. Because every time we see him come back on the field, Antonio Brown, he hadn't played football in a year and a half. Nah, he's old. He'll be bad. Nope, he's great. You see, I don't know, whatever Antonio Brown's got going on, maybe he should be teaching lessons to make some money up here to these older wide receivers, some fitness lessons or whatever the heck. Maybe he got that TB12 secret recipe, and that's why he's no longer friends with Tom Brady. He doesn't need to be anymore. He's got the secret formula.
It was a secret, all right.
Will, any thoughts on Marquise Brown and DeAndre Hopkins?
I think you're right, Zach. I think teams are going to, and Jeff was hitting it too, that teams are going to overcompensate at first. And I think the first couple of games that DeAndre's back, you really want to play Hollywood because I think the ball's going to be there for him in big plays, not 5-yard plays. I'm talking they're going to be able to push the ball downfield with him until those safeties adjust. But then I think both of them, I think Arizona's going to suffer as the season goes on because there's another team that
because that's what they do.
And right, they were doing it when they were good. So the coaching staff, it just that team needs a fresh start, or they got to do something because the front office and the coaching staff, to me, they've already lost the team, and it's just when they get fired.
They've already ruined this team too. They're not young.
It. Yeah,
they're not young outside of Kyler Murray and now Marquise Brown. They're old, they're hurt, and they can't seem to finish the season. So I don't know. I think that the Cardinals in general might suffer a little bit, but I think the big plays are going to be there for Marquise Brown. I think he'll have the big plays like we saw in Baltimore when he was getting open downfield a lot, and we saw a lot of that from Lamar Jackson to Marquise Brown. And I think he gets the increased stability and week-to-week safety of Kyler Murray targets that we didn't see in Baltimore, which led to kind of his down weeks. So I think he's going to have a fairly good floor, but also he's going to have an extremely high ceiling because Kyler Murray.
As long as Kyler stays healthy, and I'm a little concerned.
Even with Colt McCoy, I think we'll still see some points for Hollywood.
We just said Colt McCoy. God, God save me. As a Marquise Brown owner, God save me on that one. Please, no.
Could be worse. It could be worse. You could have Baker Mayfield throwing the ball to Marquise Brown. So give me Colt McCoy over Baker Mayfield any day.
Okay. Sorry, Colt. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. He's better than one of these starting quarterbacks in the NFL. But, Jeff, let's move on to your next bold prediction here. This one's a little more far-fetched than the other ones we've heard so far.
It's bigger and bolder. And let me say,
that's right.
I'll just go first. Romeo Dobbs, top 10 receiver, going to be in the top 10 by the end of the season. Let me just say, Aaron Rodgers, he needs to be complaining about his line more than anything because that's what it is. It's not necessarily his receivers. Allen Lazard has looked good. Dobbs has looked good. It's been the inability of Aaron Rodgers to have the time to get them the ball. Running game has been okay. So I think he would still be having issues even if Devontae Adams was there because that line is having issues. Every time Bakhtiari was out, he was having an issue. Even a couple of times Bakhtiari was in, he's made a mistake. He's had an issue. So, he's being fleshed out the pocket. He's not having a whole lot of time. And that's normally where Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers were able to connect. Anytime he was flushed out the pocket and he had to improvise, Adams knew where to be, or A-Rod knew where to just throw the ball. That's the part he's still working on. I think he's going to get to that point with Dobbs towards the end of the season. I see the upside in him. I see the Devontae Adams likeness. I see all those things in him, and I think Aaron is going to get him, just pull him closer and be like, "This is what I need you to do." As they try to push to make it to the playoffs, it's going to happen. That's all I got to say.
Could. I'm just nervous with the fact that he's only really had one fantasy startable game so far this season, which was in week 3 against Tampa Bay. I thought maybe after that he would just kind of continue to build upon that. But 10 points the week after that, maybe that's okay. And then back down to 4 points last week, I think. I just can't see any sort of consistency coming out of this wide receiving core. I'm not sure if that's because of Aaron Rodgers. Is that because of the coaching staff not knowing what to do now that Devontae Adams is gone? I'm just a little nervous, and I think we're a little far-fetched saying top 10, top 15 here. I think maybe more along the lines of possibly being able to finish as a wide receiver 2, maybe top 24. I think it's something I could get behind. I think this is just a little too far out there for me. Will, what do you think? You agree with that? Are you in on this take here? Or are you?
Come on, like the Packers have talent. So either Aaron, but they're a run first team, and there should no way be that Aaron Rodgers has 168 pass attempts, and combined Jones and Dillon have 124 rushing attempts. No. And so I don't know if it's Aaron Rodgers overruling the play. I don't know if it's LaFleur trying to appease Aaron Rodgers, but someone needs to tell Aaron, you need to run the damn ball. And you need to run it, and you should be 50-50. This is a 50-50 team. They have two great running backs that are actually great out of the backfield. And I don't think it's coincidental that they're struggling, because Aaron Rodgers is acting like he has Devontae Adams or Donald Driver in his prime or whatever Packer wide receiver. He does not have that. Dobbs will not be that this year. He could be. Lazard is okay. We all kind of say, okay, well, Lazard's the one guy he's familiar with. I know Cobb, but Cobb's long in the tooth, and he'll give you a few catches a game, but he's not going to dominate a game like Devontae Adams. So, until the Packers decide they're going to run the ball, I think it hurts the wide receivers. It's too much pressure on the wide receivers, man. And Aaron you're right, Jeff. Aaron's holding the ball longer. To me, it looks like he's holding the ball longer. I haven't looked at the stats. But Aaron's not sure. He wants to throw the ball. It's Aaron Rodgers. He wants to throw the ball. But he's not sure the wide receiver is going to be where he thinks the wide receiver is going to be. So he's waiting for the wide receiver to be open. He didn't used to do that. He used to throw where he knew Devontae and him were on the same page. All the wide receivers were on the same page. He doesn't have that anymore. And so to say Dobbs is going to be a top 10 wide receiver and Aaron Rodgers can't figure out his comfort level with them,
it's going to happen.
Wait till winter comes, and unfortunately that's going to be when the Packers start realizing, we need to run the damn ball.
Mm-hmm. That it is. I think it's an interesting situation to be in if you're the Packers.
Yeah.
God knows what's going to happen. I don't really think anyone does. I don't even know if Aaron Rodgers knows who's going to be his favorite target outside of Tunyon.
No.
And
right. Tunyon, right? Tunyon's almost leading the team in receptions.
That's not really something anyone
20 targets, 17 receptions. He's their best wide receiver right now.
And that's not really what Tunyon's supposed to be. He's supposed to be the red zone target, which is what Allen Lazard seems to be this year. So it'll be interesting to see how things unfold. If I had to bet on one of the Packers wide receivers to finish higher, I would bet on Allen Lazard because he seems to be good for a touchdown a week. And a touchdown a week seems pretty consistent to me, especially in an offense that we know is going to score. And Aaron Rodgers is going to throw the ball. So that's kind of where I would tend to be on this. But I guess we could see something happen here. And if Dobbs does take off really and he exceeds all his expectations, it could happen. It's not likely in my opinion, but let's move on to our.
Hey, and there's still a chance the Packers make a move at wide receiver, which would really devalue the rest of the roster.
Odell's coming to Green Bay.
Yeah.
For his
they
sake,
should do it sooner than later.
Sake. He's got to get healthy first. He's not going to play till mid-November. He's around when he's targeting to actually play. So, I don't know. They could do it later. He's not going to sign anywhere until he's healthy and he can go out and prove to teams he's still got it because he wants to make the most money possible. So I'm not really worried about Odell signing super soon. I think he'll sign when he's healthy, and once he's healthy, he'll be good to go. Will, let's move on to your last pick here. A little bit of a homer pick, maybe.
It's a homer pick, but you said be bold. If you watch that game on Sunday, he was 17 for 17. That offense is starting to click. And I know there's a lot of Kirk Cousins haters, Carolina. There's a lot of Kirk Cousins haters, Indianapolis. All these teams that talk crap about how, we don't need Kirk Cousins because he was on the trading block. And everybody's like, no, I'm not going to touch him. Yeah, Matt Ryan. Okay. Yeah, whatever the hell Carolina has at quarterback. Okay. Right? Shoot, even the 49ers were smart enough to hold on to Garoppolo because that coaching staff, somebody knew we can't let him go because Trey Lance, we don't know what the hell we got there. So I'm saying all that. If you watch that Bear game, yeah, the Bears came back. It's a division game. All these NFL games are close this year. The talent's pretty. It's interesting about the NFL, right? There's a lot of talent, and these games are much closer, right? But if you watch Kirk Cousins in that offense, and you watched each week with a new offense, with a new coaching staff, with a team that added like Jalen Reagor, everybody can laugh at Jalen Reagor, but you see the Vikings are starting to utilize him more and more each week in creative ways. Dalvin Cook. You want to talk cooking, Jeff? Dalvin Cook cooked this week.
He did.
Imagine when this offense and their schedule gets easier. That look, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, no way Vikings go to Miami and win that game. This week now, Vikings are favored on the road. Now, I'm not sure they can win it. It's a grass game, traveling. Vikings.
Because they're playing against Skylar Thompson.
I know, but
because if they lose this game, that's just embarrassing.
Hey, it's the NFL. New England
still embarrassing.
New England almost beat Green Bay in Green Bay with a third-string quarterback coming off the bench. This year is
Green Bay.
This year,
this is Green Bay we're talking about. They just lost.
I'm telling y'all,
the Giants.
Be bold with Kirk Cousins. He is a top 5 fantasy quarterback this year. That
Kirk
offense
Cousins
is getting better. Top 5.
Always will finish in between 10 and 12.
Nope.
No matter how good of a season he has, how bad of a season he has, he'll be the quarterback 10 through 12. One of those. Maybe he'll sneak into the top 10. We've seen him do that every once in a while. It kind of happens. We've seen him. His finishes 11, 11, 11, 19, 13. Go back to Washington. He had 6 and 5.
And okay. So when you go back to Washington, you look at 6 and 5, right? Mm-hmm. That you got to look at when most of those top 10 finishes were. Even Kirk said it after the game. It was the first time I saw him take a swipe at Zimmer. He said he's finally in an offense that is fit for him. They are throwing. It's not all the last 3 years with the Vikings. Cook, run the ball. Cook, run the ball. Run the ball. Throw on third down. The Vikings offense now, I don't know what that was on Sunday. I haven't seen anything like that from the Vikings since Denny Green, and he had Randall Cunningham back there just toying with people with the 3 wide receivers and Robert Smith. So I'm just saying, like, look, y'all want to you have a chance to get Kirk Cousins, get him, because he's a top 5. He's going to be a top 5 QB at the end of the season.
The only thing that concerns me about Kirk Cousins is he's already got 5 interceptions on the season. And he finished last year with 7. So if he keeps up throwing,
you got to look at when this is where fantasy football, I think, it's an example of that first year of a new coaching staff with decent players on a team. It's always that transition year, and so can you see the tidal wave before it comes? I'm talking about where this Viking offense at week 13, 14, 15 when you're in the playoffs. And look, even if you could probably get Kirk Cousins cheap right now, truth be told. And so even if they have him on your roster as your number 2, you're keeping him off somebody else's roster who's probably like, let me unload him now because I don't know if he's going to get any better. Because I think you're right, Zach. He's always going to be 11 or 12. But if he goes from 10 this season to 5, that could be the difference between you being a championship team in your league and you being second place.
So do you see him throwing for 40 touchdowns this year?
I think when they finally, and this is why I'm so excited about this week. They kind of took Jefferson away for a week and a half. And in the Vikings with Kirk Cousins the last couple of years, there would have been no adjustments. This week, the coaching staff adjusted to what teams are doing against Jefferson. And that offense, he was 17 for 17. It's the first time in since 2016 they started the stat where contested throws. how much of a quarterback's throws were thrown into locations that were contested within a yard or two of the defender. This is the first time since they've kept that set they've ever had a quarterback that 0 of his throws were thrown into contested territory. That means those wide receivers are wide open. This is starting to feel a little bit like the Rams offense last year, where guys were just running free and you're like, what is this defense doing? So for fantasy perspective, I don't know what that means for the playoffs in the NFL in the real life, but for fantasy, coming down at the end of the season, if this Viking offense is clicking, I mean, Jefferson's the number 1 wide receiver in the NFL right now. He had 9 catches in the first half. 9 in the first half. 9.
See, I'm worried about the fact I don't think he can hit that 40 touchdown mark being at 7 through 5 games so far.
Mm-hmm.
Last year he had 33 and he was the quarterback 11. So if he wants to get up there past that mark, he's got to get into that 40 touchdown range nowadays in this NFL because he doesn't run the ball. He's not going to Jalen Hurts this. He's not going to score a bunch of rushing touchdowns.
I think he's going to put the touchdowns. I think the touchdowns are coming.
Look.
But to get –
you have – look at this. Look at what you said. You have Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. You have Lamar. You got Jalen. You got even Justin Herbert. Then you got a couple other guys that I didn't even mention.
Look, Jalen's not a top 5 fantasy quarterback in my book at the end of the season.
You can't.
I don't think he is. Right.
You got Geno.
Okay, you know what, Jeff? I'll give you Geno. Geno could be a surprise fringe top 5.
So looking at the stats, I just did some quick math while you guys were talking about that. For Kirk Cousins to hit 40 touchdowns on the year, he's got to throw for 2.75 touchdowns per game. So far this season, he's yet to have a 3-touchdown game. Go back to last season, he had 4 3-touchdown games, and he's going to need to stretch this together throughout the course of the rest of the season.
I get you, but you can't compare with the offense Mike Zimmer.
But if you compare to this year, he hasn't done it yet.
Yeah, but I'm just telling you, y'all said be bold. If you watch the evolution of this Viking offense, it's coming. And if you had to pick a team, if you had to pick a quarterback that has a talent around him who currently is not throwing for 2+ touchdowns a game, if you look at the roster, who has the talent around him if the offense opens up, it continues to open up to actually reach that benchmark?
Yeah.
And Justin Jefferson.
I think if I was going off of quarterbacks who really don't throw for touchdowns, I'd probably go with Jalen Hurts. But I don't think he's going to hit that 40 passing touchdowns, but he could probably hit 40 if you include his rushing and throwing touchdowns. I don't see the high-end upside for Kirk Cousins. I like him as a low-end QB1. Always have liked him as a low-end QB1. I got him in a couple dynasty leagues. Start him every week, super flex. He's good. To me, Kirk Cousins just can't be great in a especially fantasy where running the ball at the quarterback position takes up a lot of points. Kirk just doesn't have that. And, the offense could take off. We could see this happen. You and me were talking about Dalvin Cook, his reception numbers coming up. Those still could continue to go up. I think the yards, maybe he gets to 4,300, 4,400 yards this year instead of 4,200 the past 2 seasons. Mm-hmm. Or maybe with the extra game, he'll get into that 4,500 yards, but he's still going to have to get those touchdowns up. Currently, the projections that I have for the Vikings the rest of the season, I just can't get him that 40 touchdown mark. I think he's going to need to crack the top 5 because we know there's going to be guys, Jalen Hurts, who are going to score a bunch on the ground, especially in a 4-point per passing touchdown league. Jalen Hurts is probably going to finish top 5. As much as I don't believe and don't trust him week in, week out, end of season, he's going to get those rushing touchdowns. Jeff named a bunch of guys earlier who also can throw the ball, but can also run the ball. And they've done it before. The last time Kirk Cousins finished in the top 5 once in his career, he threw for 25 passing touchdowns. And he had 12 interceptions that year. That is not happening again. That's not the way the NFL goes anymore. There's no chance.
It's be bold. I'm telling y'all, do not sleep on this Viking offense and do not sleep on where Kirk Cousins is. Because if you watch this game this week, this was the most not Kirk Cousins game I've seen in his career. Because they easily 2 years ago, Vikings would have folded, Kirk Cousins would have folded. And it's not what he did.
Who do they play this week?
Miami.
Dolphins against Skylar Thompson.
That's right.
It's a joke of a game.
Right.
The entire Dolphins secondary is toast. They're all hurt. They're on their third string starting quarterback here. So he could have a good game this week. And I think he will probably get around 30 touchdowns, 35, maybe pushing it. Those other 5 touchdowns, I can't see him getting those. I'd probably honestly be more willing to bet on Russell Wilson to finish top 5 than Kirk Cousins.
Oh, man. Okay.
I think he's got the upside when it comes to being able to score on the ground.
There's I don't even know if it's bold. Kirk Cousins will be far ahead Russell Wilson in fantasy standings by the end of the season.
Do I predict him to finish higher? Yes. But if I'm going purely off of finishing top 5, I think Russ has that upside that Kirk doesn't have.
Russ don't have the coaching staff. Russ don't look.
Kirk,
that's the
week in, week out. Yeah, but Kirk week in, week out, he's gonna put up 15, 25 points. He's never gonna have games that are in that 40, 50 point range. He's never he won't really have any games within that 5 to 10 point range. Russ could very well have many games in this 5 to 10 point range, but he also has the ceiling, in my opinion, to have 40, 50 point games that I don't think Kirk brings. Especially not being able to run the ball. It's tough. It's bold. It's definitely bold.
He did get a rushing touchdown this week. I don't know how.
I'm telling y'all, I'm not blowing smoke. If you watch the evolution of the offense from week 1 to week 5 as they're implementing more of the playbook. Look, just that trick play from Kirk to Jefferson to Cook. People are wondering why the Rams, maybe we need to start understanding what's happened to that Ram coaching staff. Maybe it's not coincidental.
I'll give you this. Because you guys get to play Detroit, where he might have 6 touchdowns in that game.
And they already played. They already played Detroit, and he only had 2 touchdowns. So we'll see. We'll see. Their playoff matchups don't look great. Indianapolis, or New York, and Green Bay, especially in Green Bay, Week 17. That's a little far. Wouldn't really want to be starting Kirk Cousins then. They also play Buffalo and Dallas between now and the end of the season. Both of those games are going to be tough matchups. So I think that there's going to be some tough sledding, and Kirk Cousins will come in right at that 10 to 12 range. Like he always does, good old reliable. You'll want him in your starting lineup because he's just going to be constantly getting you points. He's good, but he's not top 5. Zach would have really loved this show because Zach loves his top 5. We've had a lot of top 5 talk, and Zach's not here to get in on it. So with that being said, I want to thank you guys for your bold predictions. We'll see how many of these come true. I hope everyone watching enjoyed this episode. Make sure you tune in again next week. You can check out our last week's episode as well, which was buy and sell candidates, which still do apply. So you can go check that out. Check us out on Instagram. I'm at Pro Football Craze. Jeff's at Media MPC. And as I said before, go check out the Media app on the App Store. You'll definitely want to get in now before everyone else is using it. Like I said, hope you enjoyed. And we'll see you again next time.
Let's go, Steve Wilkes.
Yes, sir.
Bye.